Alien Worlds is the only Kirby Roseanne's colouring book that I really do not like, and I wanted to come on and do this video. Went to look on my bookshelf and realised I don't even own the book anymore. I had it for review and then I think I gave it away because, like I said, I really didn't like it. I couldn't see myself colouring in it. And then over the last sort of week or so, I've been thinking, how can I colour a page in this, make it enjoyable, take myself out of my comfort zone by colouring something, a subject matter that I really don't like, and yeah, see if it's interesting, you know, for you guys to watch, interesting of a process for me to do. So like I said, I went to my bookshelf and I no longer have the book, but I do have this one, the Kirby Roseanne's 10-year celebration. And in this book, there is a variety of images from all of his books previous. And of course we have an Alien World section. So I do still have some pages that I can colour from the original Alien World books. So we've got this double page spread, which is just straight off the back too much for me to colour. A double page spread with such detail is, I know I'm not going to be able to do it. And then we've got this one, which obviously none of these illustrations are realistic. They're all fantasy and sci-fi, so you can put the colour wherever you want. And I think that is the charm and the magic of Alien Worlds, which I probably missed, you know, on my first go through the book. You can colour it however you want to, and it doesn't have to make sense. The colours don't have to make sense because it is so laden in fantasy. So there is this one. Obviously we've got a flying, what looks like a flying sea creature, flying fish in the skies. Some kind of building here. There's not too much detail on this one. This one, it just creeps me out. Now, I don't have the fear of holes or anything, like the trypophobia. I do get like a slightly creepy feeling from it, but it's not, I'm not phobic of it or anything. But it's just this kind of praying mantis alien creature. It just gives me the heebie-jeebies, and not in a good way. So I don't think I'll be colouring this one. This is the image from the front cover of Alien Worlds. And I could do this one, but there is an awful lot of little plants and detail, and it's going to be lots and lots of different colours, and I can't see at the moment how I would make it cohesive, and that's what I want. Then we've got this one, which is some kind of lion slash deer alien. Again, there's lots and lots of little plants. It's pretty much the same deal as that one. And then we have this one, which is the Airbus type situation. You can see it's a creature. It's got these sort of tendrils and things on it, and it's got arms, and it's flying above all of the structures below. So it was either going to be this one or, where is it? Or this one. And I think I'm going to go for this one because it's got the least amount of detail. It's not going to be too daunting for me to colour. And obviously with it being a book that I'm not really in love with, I want something that's going to be quite simple and I can just get it done and see how I feel at the end of it. Maybe I'll end up buying another copy of Alien Worlds in the future. I doubt it, but you never know. Let's see how I feel after this. Now, I'm going to use a colour cube card from Sarah Renee Clark because, like I said earlier, you can use lots of different colours on this. It doesn't have to make sense. You can have, you know, purple skies and or green skies, whatever, you know, and you can use whatever you want, whatever colours. So in the colour cube number 4 by Sarah, she has a cyberpunk category. Hopefully you can see that. It's the second one in. And I thought that these images, these colour schemes rather, would go really nicely with the Alien Worlds theme. So I'm going to have a look through the cyberpunk section. There is quite a few, and I'll see if anything grabs my attention. I know I'm going to need probably 2 colours for the creature because, like I said, I don't want it, I want it to be cohesive. I don't want to use too many colours, so I want probably 2 for the fish creature, possibly 1 or 2 for the building, and then you've got the sky and the clouds, so we'll figure that one out. So I'm not bothered about all purple. That one doesn't look cyberpunky enough to me. Pinks, purples, it looks a little bit pastel and a little bit dulled down. I want something maybe more neon. I might even get the neon collection out and see what they've got. Again, it's a bit pastel. This is getting a bit better, but I don't know. I might put that one to the side. All greens, not interested. That one, quite boring. Again, just pinks and purples. Pinks and purples. I quite like the inclusion of the pink and the turquoise. I think those two colours would go amazingly well, and obviously some purple as well. So we'll keep that one to the side as well. This one, not bothered. This one, I mean, I like the orange and the purple, but I don't think that's what I'm going for. This one has a blue, a pink and an orange, so this one could be a contender. Put that to one side. No, 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 no. Definitely not. Definitely not. No, no. No, there's not enough variation. And no, I don't think so. Right, so I've pulled 3 cards out of the Cyberpunk section, which are these 3. And they're all fairly similar, to be honest. This one is a little bit more of the basic bright colours, red, yellow, purple, whereas these have a little bit more fluctuation in the colours. So this one and this one are quite similar. I think if I was going to choose out of these two, it would be this one, because we've got more of a bright orange situation going on. But I really like the blue, the turquoise blue. I think this is a shade too dark, but I can always, you know, subvert it and use my own colours, just use this as an inspiration. I think I'm going to take this one away then. So we're between these two. I think it's going to be this one. Just sort of looking at the illustration, I think these colours are too saturated in that they're sort of basic colour wheel colours. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Probably not. Whereas these ones a little bit brighter, a little bit more in-betweeny tones. So we've got that one. Now I did say I wanted to have a look at the neon section. I believe that that is in a different colour cube. So I'm just going to check. This is number... Is this number 3? No, I think it's number 2. I'm going to have to check which ones they're in. It's not this one. I doubt it's going to be in number 1 as well, because I don't think the neon category would be in number 1. No. So it will be the last one, of course, that we look in, which is number 3. It's the black box. And do we have neon? Yes. Neon Glow, it's that one there. So let's pull those out. I'm really losing space now on the desk. Right, so you see immediately how close is that, you know? So these neon and the cyberpunk colours are really similar. Still think I will stick with that one though. Or will I? Yeah, that's got more of a pink on it. This one is nice, but I don't think it's not got that blue. I really want the blue. No. Nope. No. No. Here we go again. No. No. Now we've got the pink, the turquoise, the blue. No orange though. I still think I prefer this one. No. No. Nope. Ooh, lime green. So we've got a blue, a pink, purple and lime green. I think I might like the lime green better than I like the orange with these colours. So if we just put this here and just look at those top 4, I quite like that. So I'm going to keep that one to the side. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. Right, so we've got 2 cards to work with. I'm just going to put all of them away so I've got room. Okay, I've put all my cubes away and I've picked out some pencils that I think will work quite nicely. So firstly, for the lime green, I've gone with yellow chartreuse, chartreuse and grass green. These are the Prismacolor pencils I'm using. They are the pencil that most people seem to want colour alongs with, so that's why I'm using them, and they're my favourites. So so yeah, with the yellow chartreuse, it is a beautiful vibrant colour, and this is more of a chartreuse, but when you put this next to it, it really makes it pop. It elevates the chartreuse, because it's got a little bit of a darker green in it. This is more akin to this colour. And then I thought I'd go with the grass green, even though in my colour family chart it wouldn't, you know, the grass green wouldn't follow these colours, because I think that is going to, if we blend that over the chartreuse, I think that is going to make it brighter. Now, if I went for something like a marine green or an olive green, which is, you know, next in the colour family that I made, it would be a little bit too dull. And I want this to be bright and vibrant, so I've added the grass green again, just to give it that bit of contrast and pop. Then we've got the pinks, so I've gone for hot pink. I want a really bright, almost neon sort of pink. Then we've got the processed red. And then I've picked out Dahlia purple. Now this is a purple, but when I go over the processed red, it is just, you can't really see because it's covered up now, but yeah, I can't show you. Let me do that again. Right, so we've got the hot pink. Then we've got the processed red. This is not the best blend in the world, I'm just doing it for demo. And then over the end of the processed red, we've got, just like with the grass green and the chartreuse, this little bit of Dahlia purple will really enhance that pink. Now I could have gone for something like a pomegranate or a raspberry or a Tuscan red, but again, they would dull it down a little bit, you know. I wanted even the darker colours to be quite poppy and saturated, so that's why I've gone for those. Turquoise, it's no surprise I've chosen the 3 aquas from Prismacolor. So we've got the light aqua, these need a sharpen before I use them, the aquamarine and the cobalt turquoise. Very simple tricolour blend. And for the purple, I've gone for black grape, violet and lilac. So again, I wanted to keep it quite bright and vibrant. So then we've got the violet, and then we've got the black grape. So those are the colours that I've chosen out. I'm still wondering whether or not to put an orange in there, or would that be too much? Because then we'd have 5 different colours rather than 4. I could do an orange, but I'm just not sure yet whether I want to. I just don't know. So we'll see. We'll play it by ear. So yeah, let's get started. Which colour should I use on the creature? That's what I'm wondering. So let's think then. What goes really well together? Well, the pink and the lime would go really nice. The pink and the turquoise go really nice. Pink and purple would be a little bit more analogous, you know, next to each other on the wheel. So it'd be quite, it wouldn't be as in your face, which is what I want. So I'm just trying to think, if I use the pink and lime for the creature, that's going to leave us with turquoise and purple. Those two together, do they, I mean, they're nice together, but do they pop together? That's what I'm trying to figure out. So what if I put the chartreuse with the purple? That might work, because then I can use the pink and the turquoise that go really nicely together, and this will elevate the deeper sort of purple colours. So yeah, let's say then, let's grab a pencil, let's say these two together and then these two together, and I'm going to do the creature in these two, I think. So I'm just going to put C for creature, B for buildings, and then we will assess at the end of that. Right, let's get colouring then. So I'm going to need my pinks and my turquoises first of all. Let me give them all a sharpen. So I've sharpened my pencils and I've changed my mind. I was sat here and I was thinking, I really want that pink and lime together, you know. And then I was thinking, well, if we make this creature the main focus of the page, which I think it should be, then the pink and the lime are the most sort of contrasty colours. I mean, purple and lime, yes, but I think the purple, it's not as popping off. So pink and lime for the creature. And then even though I said that the blue and the purple were quite analogous, I think that's going to be okay because they're still quite bright, yet they're going to sort of make the building a little bit shrunk back, I guess, from where the pink and the lime is kind of exploding over here. And I think that's what I want. I want this to be the focus, this to be still bright, but sort of in the background. So that's what I'm going to do. So we'll start off, let's see, what do I want? These kind of look like flames on the edges of his wings. And obviously I'm not using red or orange, so I'm thinking which one to use. Do we do green, neon green flame? That might be cool. Or do we do hot pink flame? I think green. So here we go. I'm going to start then with my grass green, and we will do all these little in-betweeny bits for our shadow areas. The great thing about Kirby's work, no matter what he draws, is he gives you really good guidance when it comes to, you know, where to put your darker shadow colours. Now, not so much on these feathers here, that they don't really have any shading, so we'll have to figure that out as we go. But usually everything has a sort of shaded, cross-hatched area that you know you're going to put your dark colours there. So that's what I'm doing here. Do I need to zoom you in a little bit? It might help. There we go. So again, grass green. I don't want to go, you know, too far with it, because really the star of the show is these two colours. This is just to make it pop that little bit more. So I'm just going to do all of the greens, green shadows. Okay, so I think I've done all of the darker green kind of shadow areas that I want to do. Now we're going to move on to the chartreuse, and this should really start to pick up the brightness and the almost neon intensity of these colours. So I'm going over that green. Now the good thing about Prismacolors is they are quite opaque, so you can go over colours and it will change or mix or blend sort of on the page the colours together. Now you can see as soon as I've started going over this grass green, it has made it a lot less in your face green. So if you compare this to this, you can see it's blended. It's sort of, this has toned it down a bit, but in a good way, because really, like I said, we just want to see the chartreuse colours pop, and we just wanted to have a little bit of shadow colour that wasn't going to be too dark and dull, but sort of elevated these colours. So and it will make sense as I go along. But yeah, so I'm just going to go in, like I said, over that grass green. That starts to melt the grass green into more of a, you know, a deeper lime green rather than a grass green. And of course I'm leaving room for the yellow chartreuse. So I'm just going to go through all of those. Now you may have noticed when I was colouring the dark green areas, I did go down the line. You know, I didn't just keep it to these tight areas of shade at the top. That's because these flames are overlapping each other. So you can see that this one is sat in front of this one. So there would be a slight cast shadow underneath that overlapping part. That's why I've gone down, right down on some of them. So again, just going over all of the green. And hopefully you can see now I've done a few more flames, what I mean about how this chartreuse colour changes the grass green. It makes it definitely more of a natural darker colour of the chartreuse than it does a grass green. Can you tell I've been to art school? I haven't. That's why I don't know any of the jargon. I'm just trying to explain it as best I can. But hopefully you can see it kind of transform that shadow colour. Right, so that's the chartreuse done. Now I'm going to move on to the yellow chartreuse, and this should again just really make this pop. Now what we could also do here, if it's not looking as neon as you want it, is to of course introduce a neon yellow. So I'm just going to go over this with the chartreuse, see how I feel about it, and decide whether I want to add a neon yellow. Okay, I've done the chartreuse. It's really hard to tell how vibrant this green is until we put another colour on the page. So when I start putting the pink next to it, that's what's going to make that pop even more. You know, it's hard when it's just on white and it's on its own. But I've got the neon yellow Prisma, and I'm just going to see what happens if I layer a little bit on. So I'm going over where I've put the yellow chartreuse. I think this might be a good idea actually, because that little bit of neon yellow I think is giving it a decent highlight saturation, if that makes sense. I do want to keep a little bit of white for maximum contrast. If I just put this over where I've put the chartreuse, and maybe sort of on the tips of the flames as well. I am going out of the lines quite a bit, but not to worry. Where else here? Yeah, I think that's helped, but like I say, we'll only really know when we get some pink and some other colours onto the page. So of course we do have his other wing. We've also got some of the flame feather things on his tail as well. So I'm just going to colour all of those and then come back to you. Okay, so I've finished all of the green flame feather things. Now we're going to move on to the pinks. So as I said, we have a purple, or more of a purple colour, that is the shadow colour for our pinks, but I'm hoping that we will have the same sort of thing happen where the pink will go over that purple colour, just as this chartreuse went over the grass green, and make it blend in more and make it look like the natural deep colour of these two. I know what I mean, again. Brain fog is absolutely terrible. I'm sure it's the tablets that I'm on, but it's probably just me. Right, so I'm going to colour these feathers now because they're next to the green ones, and I don't want to colour more green next to green. And this is where I thought, do I need a third colour? Because usually with any object you're colouring, you know, that's got a lot of moving parts, you will need at least 3 colours so that you can keep each colour from touching the other, you know, at any point. So I'm just going to see how I go. I may end up bringing orange in. Let's just give it a go. So starting off with the Dahlia purple, and I've got to think now where I want to put these shadows because we don't have any guidance on these ones. So I'm just going to play it by ear. So you can see there are some overlapping ones, and that's good because we know there's going to be a bit of cast shadow under there. Just carry on looking for those little areas that are overlapping. And then also I'm doing the top. So this will be under this part of his leg, wing, whatever it is. So under there, and then down the side where the other one overlaps. Right, so I've done all of the shadow areas. Now we'll move on to our mid-tone, which is the Process Red. Okay, next up, Hot Pink. I am wondering whether to put a bit of neon pink on the edges of this just to go with what we did on the flames. We will see. Okay, so I'm going to try and add a little bit of neon pink on these, see how it looks. Let's try it on the big one at the edge. See, the neon crayons, the neon pencils in Prismacolor are not the nicest to work with. The pigment separates from the binder quite a lot, and it's just not smooth. So there will be a slight grainy look to your neon pencils. I'm not sure about this. Like I said, they're just not very nice to blend. I think you can get away with it with the light one, the neon yellow, because you can't see it too much, but just not sure whether this is going to work. All I can do is try it. This is an experiment after all, seeing whether I like colouring a page from a book that I really don't like. So why not just use the neon and see what happens. So I'm just going to put some right on the edge and just try and blend out any graininess. It's really hard though. Really hard. You can see speckles and I hate that. I like my colouring to look smooth. So maybe I can go back in with the hot pink just to smooth out any of those little pigment blobs. We'll see. I don't know if that looks better or not, to be honest, with the hot pink. Sorry, the neon pink. It's not as neon as I was expecting, actually. I don't use these pencils ever, so I'm not very au fait with them. I don't remember what they look like specifically. I just know that they're supposedly neon colours. So we'll see. I don't know. Hopefully I've not ruined it. Just looking at it, it seems a little bit duller than it looked before, which is crazy because this is meant to be neon. Let's get that hot pink out. You can almost just remove the neon pink with the hot pink because the pigment is just so easy to slide across. It just slides over the paper and then it's gone. So at least we can sort of buff out those little pigment blobs with our hot pink, make it a little bit smoother. Like I said, I don't know whether it was the right choice to do that, but we're experimenting today. So there's lots of different areas on this that are a little bit whiter than others. What I might do is come in with a white, actually. I've got a Derwent Drawing Chinese white. I do have a Prismacolor white, but it's about that big. Need to get another one. So I am just going to go in on these very edges, smooth out the highlight. Excuse me. I've got a frog in my throat. And hopefully just make these look a little bit smoother. Oh, see, that's how hard I'm pressing. I mean, the thing is, when you use a white, it can dull things a little bit. You know, it's never going to be the white of the paper. It's always going to have that little bit of pink blended in. I'm just going to get on with it. Stop overthinking it, Claire. So I've just added a bit more Process Red. I'm happier with it now. I could, and what I normally would do is to go back in with the darker colour and really crispen that contrast up. But I just don't know, because it's a purple, I don't want to make them look purple, you know. That was the whole point of putting the process red over it, was to sort of hide the purple and make it look like a darker process red. And now I'm re-adding the purple. But then again, because we do have a purple colour on the page with the building, this might not actually be a disaster to add this purple back in, because it's just going to match up with there being another purple on the page. Just add a bit more of that back in. And you get to a stage where the contrast is back, you know, when you do this, and you feel like, okay, that doesn't look as milky and as desaturated anymore. These ones are so tiny, it's difficult to even get any real variation on there. So I'm just going to colour over that with a light hand with the hot pink. Yeah, I'm not amazingly pleased with, especially these larger areas where you can see the neon pink, sorry, has made them all a little bit speckly. But if I just go over it with a light hand of neon pink, it smooths it out for the most part. Right, I feel like I sound really boring. Now we have to think about what colour to do the body. So what I would normally do, like I said before, is sort of alternate colours. So I would have this part of his arm now be green. The body is a little bit more difficult. I probably would do it pink, because you've got this huge area on the page of the green flame, and I think if we did the body green as well, that would just be too much green. I think we need to try and balance it a little bit. So I think his body will be pink, unless of course I bring in another colour, like for example the orange. Now pink, green and orange, I don't know how that would look actually. Let me grab an orange pencil. So I've got an orange and I've got a, what else can I bring out here? Spanish orange. Let's put that over here. So what are we thinking? I don't know, you know. Do I want to add a third colour?
One eternity later.
Yeah, let's do it. Right, I'm committing. So I've got my orange. I've got the Spanish orange. What am I going to use for a dark colour? Still want to keep it bright, but it's got to be something I can use as a shadow colour. Thinking about browns. What's this one? It's just like terracotta. Might be a little bit too brown. We'll look for a burnt ochre maybe. Yeah. Let's try this on the paper first. Now there are, like I said, you know, darker oranges that I could use, just like there are darker greens and things like that, but I want to try and make a bit more of a pop. Very quick rudimentary blend there. What about I don't have a pumpkin orange on me. What about a Tuscan red? That could work. I think that's better than that. That's really dull compared. Right, so we've got Tuscan red, orange and Spanish orange. Right, let's see how this works then. So I'm going to start off with his leg. I keep saying leg, it's because it like almost looks like a leg to me, but it's the top of his wing. Let's see, if I do a coating of this Tuscan red in this very shaded bit in the middle, but don't burnish it, and then we burnish over it with an orange, what we're going to get is quite a deep orange, and that's what I want for these inner shadowed areas. So I don't want it to be bright orange, which is why I'm going over this first with the Tuscan. Same on these little sort of cracks between. Put a layer of that Tuscan. Another one there. And then, like I said, go over it with the orange. Let me just sharpen it. Watch your ears. Over with the orange so that we have really deep dark orange. Again, I'm going out of the lines. So I'm not that bothered about going out of the lines, to be honest. I know I can push colour around where I want it, and I can, you know, erase bits as well. Prismacolors aren't easy to erase, but sort of 80–90% of it will erase. So I'm just using my electric eraser just to get off most of that colour. And then because Prisma is so opaque, whatever we put over it should hide it for the most part. Just took off a little bit here, so I'll just add it back in. Yeah, the Tuscan red has definitely created that depth that I wanted with the orange, just for the shadowed areas. So we'll do the same thing on his shadowy bits of his head. So I'll go under here with the Tuscan red. And then all the bits that are like bright white, we can have our bright oranges on there. If you're struggling for what colour to use as your shadow colour, why not try using a contrasting colour? So I've not done that here, I've done something different, but if you look at the colour wheel, every colour has an opposite, right? So for orange, if you do a blue pencil layer underneath, that should create a natural dynamic shadow for the orange. That's just how colour theory works. I've just decided to go a little bit of a different way on this one, because I think that this Tuscan red is so rich that it will still keep the warmth of the orange rather than going really cool and neutral and, you know, dull. So there's no real rhyme and reason behind it. It's just, I'm eyeballing it, to be honest. So I'll do that again, exactly what I did on the wing thing, the wing leg, just on here, and all of these little creases between. Make sure you've got a nice, decent layer of this Tuscan red down. Obviously not burnished, but enough. You know, if you don't put enough Tuscan red down, you are going to get like patches of bright orange. So I'm going to do that all the way down his spine. So again, this is just really rough colouring, nothing refined about this whatsoever. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about these kind of middly bits that aren't quite as dark shaded, but they're not white either. I'll have to try and figure that out. Okay, so let's do our orange overlay. Just make sure I've got enough Tuscan Red. I want it to be sort of even, you know, I don't want there to be any lighter areas of the Tuscan Red because that's going to make our orange look really blotchy. So I'm going over it with a nice hard pressure and the orange pencil. Right, I think that's pretty good. Let's see now what I want to do. Put the Tuscan Red to one side. Let's concentrate on our lighter areas then. So I'm going to colour each of these sort of patches with an orange outline that fades into the Spanish orange in the middle. I think that's what I'm going to do. So orange on the outline, and then Spanish orange in the centre, leaving a little bit of white. Now there is a neon orange, but I don't think I'm going to go for that, purely because I didn't like how the pink looked. So leave a little bit of white in the centre, and that can act as our bright highlight. Do that on every single patch that he has on him, and I'll figure out what to do about the outlines afterwards. Okay, so I've done all of the orange sections. I want to quickly go in and do the underbelly of this flying fish creature. And so I'm going to do that again with the Tuscan Red base layer and add orange on the top. Now for the sort of lines and the separating bits of the sections, I was thinking we now need to bring in some more green and pink to really make the body of this creature match and tie in with its wings, because otherwise it's just going to be a lot of orange with some randomly pink and green wings. So that's what we're going to do. Seeing as the pink is more to the front of the creature, I'm going to put some at the back. So again, that ties it in, makes it a bit cohesive. And then the bits at the front, which are further away from the green, are going to be green. So it's just messing about with where you put colours as well. Makes a difference. So let's see. I'm going to do green at the front, I said, didn't I? So I want to get this chartreuse and just give that a layer all over. All over all of the white bits. Doesn't have to be perfect at the moment, I'm just giving it that quick layer. And again, just on the wing areas, those little outline pieces, make sure we've got some chartreuse on there. Yep. Oh. This is how hard I'm doing it. I'm very, very hard-handed. It's something I need to try and get out of the practice of being, but hey-ho. Right. There's chartreuse on that wing. And then make sure we don't forget these bits. There's another little Tuscan Red bit that I'm going to have to do here that I've missed. So I'll quickly do that before I forget. Layer of Tuscan. Don't forget the little joint pieces as well. And over the top with orange. Okay, right, pink. So again, I'm going to do a pink coating quite lightly over these little outlines. And then we're going to go in over the top with our darker colours, our detail. Just want to get a base layer on this first. My throat is so croggy today, I'm so sorry. This bit here, this bit, and there's a couple more areas I need to do the Tuscan red trick with again because I've forgotten them. So we've got this little bit here, and I've forgotten a couple of the little flippy things as well. This bit here, orange. I really need to start sharpening these pencils. Like, do you ever get where you just can't be bothered to sharpen them and you know you need to? And it's literally the work of seconds, but you just can't bring yourself to do it. Right, let me just outline. Yeah, let me sharpen it. Oh, throwing it at you. Right, let's outline this little flipper thing and this one as well with the orange and cover it up with the Spanish orange. Right, I also need to put some pink on these bits. Now we should be able to start going in and doing our detail bits. So we'll start with the face. I'm going to get the grass green, and to be honest I don't really know how to do this, so I'm just going to do what I think. We'll put some there on his head. Some here as well. A little bit under here. Same on the other side. Just sort of put it where you think, really. You don't have to follow what I'm doing. Maybe a little bit under here as well. Right, so that's his head for now. Also, don't forget to come in and just do some bits on the chartreuse outlines. I think I'm just gonna put bits of green here, there and everywhere and not make it look so rigid of a pattern. Do you know what I mean? Just put bits all over the place, all over these outlines. Maybe some at the very edges, meeting in the middle, but otherwise just anywhere you like. It's all going to tie in because we're using the same colours, so you can pretty much just put it anywhere you want. Do some around there, some at the tip. Not to forget this side as well. And then this bit was chartreuse as well. So put a bit of green here, a little bit at the bottom, and the same on this bit. Let's see if I've missed anything. Don't think so. So we'll get the chartreuse pencil and blend up into the dark green and down into the chartreuse. Now remember, I only did a light layer of chartreuse, so we will be going back in with that colour at the end. So I'm just putting bits of colour literally anywhere now, just as long as it's blending out that dark green a bit and making it a little bit smoother. It really doesn't matter. Like I said, that might be the beauty of the book that I've missed, really, is that you can put things wherever you want. You can put colours wherever you want. There's no right or wrong. It's all fantasy. I will leave my original review of Alien Worlds in the comments. Sorry. So that you can go back and see, you know, why I didn't like it and stuff. So if there's any areas that the green is too green, just go over it with that chartreuse until it more or less matches and blends with the flame wings. That's looking a lot more blendy. Just make sure I'm going over these grass green bits on his head. Finally, chartreuse, or yellow chartreuse I should say, just filling that bit in, blending the chartreuse out a little. They are quite similar, so there's not too much you have to do at this point. Oh, again, it's my fault, it's my fault. I'm just going to put a little bit of neon yellow because that worked quite well with the flame. So if there's any areas of white or any areas you haven't yet put colour, put a little bit of this neon yellow. It may not make much of a difference to the eye. I'm just adding bits of colour now where I think it needs it. Just going back in with a bit of the orange to sharpen up the shadow a bit. Okay, so now it's the pink bits that we need to work on. So I'm going to grab the Dahlia purple and we'll pretty much do the same thing. However, this Dahlia purple is quite a strong colour and it is also next to a dark red. So I'm going to keep this away from those dark red patches. I'm not going to go around the edges of them. I'll do the in-betweeny bits. Otherwise it will start to blend together and look weird. We want to keep these sections looking separate. So I'll do that. Add a little bit on the corners. Just a little. And again at the back here, don't forget that bit. And don't forget the little bits on the flappy areas as well. Okay, and then you want to go in with your process red. Just blend those bits out. You can now start to move up over the oval areas. Just trying to keep dark colours away from each other so that we've still got that area showing. That kind of outline area. Come in with the hot pink now. Already done a base layer of that, so we don't have to do too much. It's just to blend out what we've done with the process red. Now I've gone into that outline with the orange, so I want to quickly try and pick some of that pigment up and make sure that it's pink. Just realised again that I've missed an area, a little flappy thing, so we'll go in there and colour it in. I think I've got everything. If there's any other areas you want to touch up, feel free to do it, but that is basically Mr. Fish done. I think I'm going to give him a pink eye pink eye, just to bring this pink down here as well a little bit. And dahlia purple just as an outline. I can also give him a little bit of a sparkle in his eye if this pen works. Not really, I'll sort it out in a bit. So I think that that is Mr. Fish complete. Just going around the edges again with the dahlia purple. I think if I outline the very edges of this, it will look better, so that's what I'm going to do. Sometimes you've got to sit and take stock of what you've done to think what you need to do next, you know, what would look better, and I think these would look better outlined. Just keep your dahlia purple away from the Tuscan red bit in the middle and you'll be fine. Okay, there you go. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm hoping that the orange inclusion works. I think it does, because we've managed to put, you know, bring the pink and the green into the orange area as well. I think what we need now is just a little bit of black to make the shadows pop on the Tuscan red and orange bits that we've done, because they look quite flat in comparison to the dark to light blending we've done everywhere else. So I've got my black, I'm going to go underneath these overhanging, overlapping feathers, and then we'll go right round and down, following the curve. You see, even just that little bit of shading, hopefully you can see how that's made that pop. I know I've got a light above me. If I just tilt it, you can see the variation. I'll try and move it down out of the light a little bit. Oh, there's Budgie. I think he's gone upstairs. So yeah, like I said, we'll do that on all of the bits. Just to his, under his neck. It really does make a difference. Do this bit as well. So all the sections that we've put the Tuscan red, let's just give them a little bit of depth. See, because I've burnished this, it's a little bit slippery. So just keep that in mind if you have already burnished an area. You might have to work a little bit harder at adding colour on top and getting it to blend smoothly. I'm just sort of rubbing it with my finger. It doesn't make an awful lot of difference, but it does tend to help, you know, very slightly to blend if that's what you're looking for. Just a very tiny bit of blend. Your finger can do that. If you wanted to, you know, do it properly, you've got blending stumps and blending solution, which I may be using later on this page, maybe for the clouds and the sky. But for now, we've just added a little bit of black. And I think that has helped the Tuscan red bits just look a little bit deeper, a little bit more curved, and made it look a bit more three-dimensional. Okay, so I'm keeping this as it is for now. I might come back in later, do a little bit more shading with the black or a darker colour to make it pop even more. But we'll leave it for now. We'll move on to the buildings. Now you will notice I've had a nail change. I've started trying to do my own nails, and my husband bought me a printer for Christmas, and because it was Buddy's birthday yesterday, I thought, why not try it out with pictures of Buddy. So yeah, that's where that's from. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep doing this, because every single glue I've tried, even the really good ones, they say are really good, my nails just pop off. I don't know what it is. I prep my nails, I buff them so they've got a key to them, then I use a nail dehydrator. I do all the good prep, and I just can't seem to find a glue that will make them stay on. So watch this space, we'll see what happens nail wise. Okay, so as for colours, what we have left from what we chose was the violet, lilac and black grape. So that's the combo. And then we have the cobalt turquoise, aquamarine and light aqua. So what I'm going to do with these buildings is very similar to what I have done on these sections, the orange sections on the flying fish. I guess that's what it is. So you can see they look almost the same. You've got a section, and then you've got the sort of crevice, which will be a bit darker. Don't know what I'm going to do with that yet, but I'm just going to use the exact same technique. So I'm going to go around the edge of the section with the darker of the three colours, and then blend into the centre to the lightest colour. And I'll do that with both the aqua and the purple, depending on where I want to put them. But, you know, technique wise, it's exactly the same as this. So I am just going to speed through this, but like I said, it's so simple. It's exactly what I've done here. So dark to light, starting from the outer edges going in, and then we'll come back when I've done that and see what colour I want to put in the little crevices that are splitting each section up. Okay, so all of the buildings are done now. I haven't done the stalks of the buildings that are sort of holding them up, the towers, because I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet, but I want to do the crevices now in between the separate sections. So initially, I thought about doing acrylic markers of the same colours. So like a really light purple to define the purple crevices and a light blue to define this blue crevices. But then I thought that will just look very standalone, you know, and I want it all to tie in. So I thought if I get a really bright like neon pink or pastel pink that will tie in some of this colour on both of the colours of buildings, that might just, like I said, just tie it in all together. It might work, let's see. So I'm using the Languo gel pens. These are acrylic gel pens and I did a video on them not long back if you want to go and have a look. They are just like a Posca or any other acrylic marker, but they do have a really fine tip. So it's good for little areas like this. Now, sometimes you get good coverage as soon as you open them up. So you can see there, I'm getting quite good coverage already. Let me zoom you in. Most of the time, it covers really, really nicely. I don't want to zoom you in too much because that's when we start to get distortion. So I haven't done anything to this one, but if it starts getting a little bit where the ink is not being so reliable in coming out, I've got a little trick where I just pop a bit of kneaded eraser or blue tack on the end of the pen, and that sort of pushes the ink through so we get a better flow. But at the moment, these are performing beautifully. So I'm going to go through and do every single one of these crevices. I'm calling them crevices. They're just separating the individual sections that we've coloured. And I'm going to do every single one, blue and purple building, with the pink acrylic. So you'll be able to, again, tie those in. And it goes with the whole neon cyberpunk type of feel that I wanted to get with this page. So you can imagine that these are really bright neon lights that are shining on these buildings, and it's just such an organic structure, but it's made up with all of these technological neons and stuff like that as well. And it's difficult to explain the sort of image I've got in my head, but hopefully you guys have got the same brain and you know exactly what I'm trying to achieve. So like I said, I'm just going to do all of these, outline them, and then I will come back to you and we will see about doing the towers. I'm not really sure yet what I want to colour these, because I wanted the buildings themselves to stand out, you know, the main building structure that I've coloured. And I think I want the towers to shrink back a bit. So we might be going for a neutral, like a grey, possibly with some slight touches of neon colours in the grey. So it's almost like a holographic type of thing. I don't know yet. I've not decided, but like I said, let me finish doing all of these little crevices and I will come back to you. So I finished all the outlining, and as bright as I did want it to look, I think it's too bright now, because I did want the fish to be the focus, and I think that this pink is just too bright and it's kind of making this look a bit dull now. So I've just been experimenting. I've got a darker pink and I'm going to try and do a blend. so that we get some contouring on these lines and it doesn't look as just bright pink stuck on the page flat. We'll try and do a little bit of blending. If, when that's dried, I still think it's too bright, I may go over the whole thing with this darker pink, just so it shrinks it back slightly, because I think it's dried quite light. And yeah, I don't want anything to detract from the fish bird. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've got my two pinks, and I am going to put a bit of kneaded eraser on the end of them. I didn't have to do this at all for the first layer, because it went on really nicely, but I think if I do it this time, we're going to be able to blend them a little bit easier, because they'll be coming out at a thicker rate, so we can get a bit of a blend going. So I've already done a little bit on this corner. Zoom you in slightly so you can see I've already done this little bit. And I'm going to get the darker pink, and I just come in at the top. See how thickly this is flowing out now? And do around about that much probably of it, and then get the original pink and just merge them together a little bit. While it's wet, you can do this. If you want a piece of scrap paper to just wipe off any of the dark pink when you start getting to the lighter bits, you can do that. But that's what I'm going to do all the way around. So again, darker pink. Wow, that's come out really thick. So we'll do these two sides while I'm here. Darker pink. And the benefit of getting it thick as well is that it's not going to scratch any of the original pink off. And then we've got the original. Come in, do a little bit of scribble. You might want to go backwards and forwards a little bit with the colours until they start to blend together. But it's going to look something like this. So I'll just finish off this one on camera. Like I said, if I still don't think that it's what I want, I will just go over the whole lot with the darker pink, and that will hopefully shrink it away just a bit. I still want it to be, you know, cyberpunk and bright and stuff, but it's just a little bit too in your face and flat at the moment. I think adding some little shadowy areas might really help with that. So I'm going to put a little bit here as well. It's the darker purple. Again, get the lighter one and just kind of drag it around. Something like that. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we'll see how it goes. I don't know whether you can see the difference that's been made. It's a lot easier, I think, to see to the eye rather than through a camera. I think it's distorting it a little bit and it's just not looking as, you know, smooth as it looks actually in person. I think it's made a world of difference adding those bits of darker pink to the pink contours. It just seems to have shrunk it back a little bit, so it's not as in your face, and I think it's definitely helped, you know, to make this still look like the feature. This obviously still is quite bold and vibrant, but anyway, I think it's helped. Time will tell if I decide to go in with a white pen on the light bits and do some little, this one's too thick really, but do some little highlights. I've not decided yet, I'm just giving this a test. I probably will, because I like to make everything look super dark up to white. So yeah, anyway, let's get on with the towers then. Before that though, I did colour the little spaceship, and I've done it in exactly the same colours and exactly the same way that I coloured the buildings. So again, just going from dark edges to light in the middle with the blue and the purple tones. Right, so for the towers, I said that I wanted to do something probably a bit neutral, but also with a little bit of flash of colour here and there. Like say if you looked at a gemstone and it might flash under the light, something akin to that, probably not as good as that. But I'm going to be using the cool greys because I didn't want to use the warm greys because I think they just look a little bit brown. With the cool greys, you often use these to do metal, and even though these aren't probably metal because they don't look like they are, I thought the metallic edge might just add to the fact that it's technological and it's, you know, cyberpunk and that kind of stuff. So I've got my very tiny little 90% cool grey, and then I've got a 70% and a 20%. Now there is quite a big jump between those, but it should be fine. Prismas work quite well for jumping between different shades. So I'm going to use the darkest colour first in all of the shadow areas. So any kind of shadowy bits where the buildings are overlapping in the front, that's where I'll be using the 90%. So again, just going into the shadows. I don't really have, you know, anything in mind for how I'm colouring these. I'm just following Kirby's shadows. So there we go. Let's do some more down here as well. I've got absolutely no idea what to do this. It might even end up being the same because it kind of looks like the same texture. I'm not entirely sure what that is. I think it's maybe some kind of organic limb that connects this building. So I have got like a mixture going on of organic shapes and sort of neon and metal and stuff. That's kind of what I'm going for. I may come in with a black to really deepen these shadow areas up. Just go around the contours of the buildings that are overlapping a little bit. Making it nice and fuzzy so that we can blend our next colour in. Don't want too much here. I think there'd be some under here though, because this blue thing seems like it would be protruding outwards, and this would be kind of cast into shadow underneath. So I think that's as much shadow as I want to do on that one. Just don't forget this bit under here. Gone a bit far with that one, but it doesn't matter. Nobody's gonna notice your little quote-unquote mistakes. I've got many many on my pages, and I think the finished look hopefully is so effective that your eye doesn't just go, oh look at that bit there where she's gone over the line. And I can always go back in, look, with the pen and just draw that back in. See, there's nothing that can't be fixed. Now if your kid comes and spills a glass of milk everywhere, try and dry it off as best you can. I'm saying nothing can't be fixed, but you know, obviously there are things. Right, next colour, 70% cool grey. So again, I don't want to use too much of this. This is just a shadow sort of transitional colour before we get to the lighter grey, which is where we can then add some of the colours from the rest of the page. Now because these towers for the most part are up against the buildings, obviously because they're holding them up, I don't want to do too much of the building colours. I want to try and incorporate some of the fish colours. Now this might not be exactly what colours would be on a kind of weird shiny holographic sort of surface if one ever existed, because you'd probably get the shine from the colours of the buildings that they're on, but I want to just tie in the colours, you know, keep doing that and making it look all cohesive. So I've put in, I'll just thicken that a little bit because there's quite a lot of area here. Just put in that mid-tone to transition us from the dark grey into the very light grey. And then over here as well. I've said it before many times on the channel that my colouring, it really is just kind of dark to light. Deciding what colours to use to make, you know, the most of the page and make it look really vibrant. I'm not a shrinking violet when it comes to colour. I like it to be quite bold. So that's, you know, sort of what I'm going for. Right, this is the 20% cool grey then. So it's the lightest of them. And I'm going to give that a coating all over the what's left of the white. Just a light coating, and then when we get up to that middle grey, I'll just use this as a blender. Blend in so it's nice and smooth. So we have a fairly smooth blend there. I've got a bit of a glare from the light above, so there are some speckles. When I move my head I can see them, but that's another thing with my style of colouring. I like it to be completely flat. I don't like to see the tooth of the paper underneath. I mean, when you're doing blends like this that are blend into the white, that's different, but when I'm doing like solid blends, I don't like to be able to see the white of the paper. Oh, not to forget this one. So we're coating all over and then just making sure it's nice and blended. So that is basically what I'm going to be doing with the rest of the towers. I will just show you though what I mean by putting some of the other colours in. So I'll bring back the pencils that I was using for the bird, and I think I want some green for sure. So I'm going to go with the chartreuse and just add in little hints of it here and there. So I'm not pushing the pencil on the page like I normally do with, you know, all the force of 1,000 suns. I'm just letting it slide over the top of the grey so that we're not getting, you know, like a full saturation area of green. It's just almost like a little reflection. And I'll just do that in different places, but I'm trying not to go too far with it because I also want to add in, I'm thinking maybe a little bit of pink and orange. So let's grab the hot pink. Again, just let it glide over the surface, no pressure involved. And I mean, I said holographic earlier. This is not how I would do holographic stuff. I've already done a tutorial for that a number of years ago, how to make something look holographic, and that is, it's not like this. There are a lot of colours involved, but this is really just to tint some of the areas of the grey so that it still sort of shrinks back and away because it's grey, but it's also bringing in some of the colours that we've used across the page. Once I've decided on a palette, I don't like to add colours in. It really took me ages to decide to add that orange in, honestly, because I like to try and recycle the colours across the page, but in different ways, so that, you know, it ties in. So I've done a bit of pink. Let's see if I want just a little bit of this Spanish orange. I don't want to cover all of the grey, so I just want little bits and hints here and there. So that it isn't just a boring dark to light grey blend. It does have some dynamism to it too. Is that a word, dynamism? Hope so. I think that chartreuse is looking a little bit too yellowy, so I'm going to go in with a very, very slight touch of grass green. But again, with this being a darker and heavier colour, I don't want to do any pressure if I can help it. This is just purely to show that there are some green tones in here as well, because like I said, that chartreuse was sort of melding with the Spanish orange a little bit and looking like it was yellow. So everywhere I've put that chartreuse, I'm just going over it with a really light hand, and I've got my fingers quite far back up the pencil, and that means that I'm able to just let go of that pressure a little bit. If I'm colouring like this, I've got a lot of sort of pressure right down on the nib. The further back you move your hand, the less ability you will have to add pressure. So with me being a bit of a pressure junkie when it comes to colouring, this is something I need to remember to do. So that green's just coming through as much as I want it to there. I don't want it to be any more saturated than that. Just add a little bit more here and there, and yeah, just keep going until you feel you've got the level right. So I've just put in a slight tickle more of pink in there, but you can still see that it's grey. So it's grey, but it's got tints of the colour. That's about as far as I'd want to go. And that's what I'm going to be doing across the rest of the towers. So like I said, get your 3 greys, dark, medium and light, do your shadows, blend it into the lightest area, and then just add some really light pressure colour over the top, and we'll see how that works out. Right, so I've done all the little tower things. I think they look quite good. I'm just going to quickly go in with some black on the very bottoms of the shadows, the deepest areas. I will just add some black in. This is an optional step. It's just that I like to have things really dark in the shadows. So a little bit of black. Just on the very, you know, the very darkest bits of where you've put the darkest grey. It's probably just underneath where these overlap. This really needs to be sharpened, but it's so small. So I'm just adding bits. I'm trying to do this so that you can see it and that it's comfortable for me. And then if you feel like it looks too linear or whatever, just come back in with your darkest grey, a little soft pressure over it, just to buff it out a little bit. So just continue adding a little bit of black here and there, because that will further make the little tints of colour pop. You can see, hopefully you can see that pops a bit more now. I think, oh, I forgot to put some colour on these, on this bit. Just do a little bit of colour while I'm here. I think that will do for the black. Now, I've also thought while I was doing this, these lines, these contours that I've done, I think maybe they should be broken up a little bit. They should have little gaps here and there. Maybe the fact that they're all just like one line is something that's making me see them as worms. So I was thinking if I use a colourless blender, so I've just got a Lyra one here, and just scrape away some of the acrylic pen, just where like lines meet, it might look a bit better. I don't know. It's just a little idea that I had when I was, you know, doing the trunks. So just scrape away little bits so they're not connected. I don't know if that looks better or not, but in my mind, it makes more sense that they would be disconnected. So with this being a colourless blender, there's no pigment in it, and that means that you don't get anything put down on the page. I'm just using it as a scraper. You can use anything you've got that's pinpointed as a scraper really, but I tend to just use a sharpened colourless blender. If I ever want to get, you know, if I've made a mistake with my highlights and I just want to scrape them off, a little sharp colourless blender is just the perfect tool. that one where it is, I think. So like I said, it's just a little feature that I thought would look better if I just gave them a bit more of an individual look rather than a glued together one. I hope this is all making sense. It's literally just stream of consciousness stuff that I'm coming out with. That shouldn't be on there anyway. Any other bits? Yeah, I've not done this one yet. I should be using my little brush to blow away the debris, but I tend to just blow. It's quicker. It's funny, you know, when I was doing the towers, I was actually colouring with my pencils still in the laggy band, the elastic band, because I just, in my brain somehow I just thought I couldn't be bothered to take off the elastic band and get them out one by one. So I was literally like this, colouring and switching colours because I just couldn't be bothered. I mean, that's ridiculous, isn't it? It's like when you really need a wee but you put it off for hours and hours because you just can't be bothered to get up. Just me? No, hopefully not. So yeah, the other thing you could do if you haven't got a colourless blender or anything like that and you want to follow this step is to take that dark colour that you've used. Look, I'm doing it again, and it's so awkward as well. I don't know why. I think it's easier or just quicker. It's really awkward. And with your dark colour, that's what you could use to make the little break, because then you're not changing, you're not lifting anything off with the colourless blender, because sometimes that happens, but you kind of adding the colour back over it at the same time as separating it. I think I'll separate that bit as well. So yeah, whatever it is, you know, whatever's best for you, whatever you think works. And that's about it. I'm fannying around with it now. I need to stop. Okay. Oh, I've not done this one. Clean my little blender off. See, this one looks like it would be together. I don't know what. Right, just do it, Claire. Let's say these two. And see, that one would be separated, and maybe this one. Maybe not, but I've done it now. Again, if you think that it's oh, come on, just take it out. If you think that it's sort of smudged or whatever, just go in with your dark colour again. Redo the outlines a bit like that. Anyway, back to this. So, done the towers, and I was thinking this thing would be like a linkage. It's this kind of same organic material, but it's linking the buildings together. So I'm probably going to do the same with this. So we're going to get our greys. Oh, the desk that I'm working on is literally like, hang on, oh, you're already on 1%. So it's only just bigger than where the edges of the screen is. I've not got a lot of room at all. So I'm trying to get it into a position that I can show you and also do it properly. So I've got my 90% cool grey. I'm going to have a look where I think shadow areas would be. It's a little bit more difficult on this because it's such a natural shape. But again, just look for things that might overlap. So I guess down here. Probably go all the way up the side of that building because that's in front of it. And then, like I said, just put your grey, your shadow anywhere. Kirby's not really given us much to work with in terms of shading on this. So just look for like areas that seem different and overlap. Do you know what? It really doesn't matter. Just as long as you've got the variation of colours in there, nobody's going to be like scrutinising it saying, oh, actually the shadow shouldn't be there, you know. I mean, some people do. I've had comments, believe me, but it's colouring, it's not fine art, you know. I don't need to be worrying that I'm not putting light sources in the same place and stuff. Yes, it's nice to experiment with light sources and trying to make things look more realistic and stuff, but sometimes we just want to colour. We don't want to think too much. That's what we're trying to get away from, is overthinking, at least for me. You know, I'm struggling all the time with overthinking and anxiety. And when I'm colouring, I don't want to, you know, be really precious about every single decision that I make, even though I sometimes am. But yeah, I'm just putting bits of grey just anywhere that I think on this sort of freeform shape that's linking the buildings together. I really need a pencil extender. This looks like a little bit of a flap as well. I'll just go under there because that's overlapping a bit. In fact, I might colour this almost all in dark grey because that's a really deep area. And then the same on this side. A little bit here. And this bit looks a bit like it will be shadowed as well. Sorry if you can't see me, it's just the pencil is that tiny at this point. And maybe a bit here. And a little bit down here. Am I on screen? Yes. Then after this, we've just got the background to do. That's gone super quick. That's what I find, you know, especially when I'm doing Kirby pages, is I look at it and it's so daunting. I think, oh my gosh, there's so much detail. And then I'll sort of put that out of my mind and just colour, colour, colour. And then you realise, actually, you're right near the end. So I think that might do for the shading. I am going to come in with the other greys and do the same thing that we did on the towers. So I've got that medium grey. Just flick it out a little bit. Just follow where I've put all of the dark grey and thicken it. Like I said, you don't have to worry about it too much. Just going to bring that out here so that we don't have a massive section that's just going to be all light grey. You just do bits that you think. Yours isn't probably going to look like mine, you know, unless you literally follow me second by second, but so just keep adding bits where you think. Just twisting and turning the page so that I've got a better position for my wrist to colour like this, rather than trying to twist round. can fill the rest in with the 20% cool grey. This is really fast process now because we've got a large area, so we can just fill it in, make sure it's nice and blendy with the other greys. And it'll start to get this kind of milky consistency, which is what I'm looking for. And with this, it really doesn't matter if there's any little specks of coloured pigment on the paper, because dragging those into the grey is just going to help add to the little inclusions of colour that we're going to put in anyway. So that's handy. So you see I've just dragged some of that blue off by accident. If it's too much, you can just hard pressure your grey over it and it should pretty much disappear. You might be more careful and light-handed of a colourist than I am. But especially when we've got large areas, I just like to get them done. I'm just making sure we're nicely blended with our darker greys. Just this last bit to do. So that's about where I want it. I can come back in with some black in a minute, but now we can put our hints of colour in, just to show that this is the same sort of structure as the towers. So again, it's linking it all together. Just little light areas. Not too much pressure, and not, you know, don't fill the entire thing. We still want to see that grey. Just a few areas with the Spanish orange. And then we'll just grab that grass green and again just go really lightly with this one because it is a heavy saturated colour. So just lightly over it. Try to do it with the flat of your pencil as well rather than the tip, so that you're not getting lines. So use the side of the core. And then some pink. So when you think it's looking a bit done, stop adding colour. I'm talking to myself. Stop adding colour, Claire. Oh, bit there. And then you can bring your black back in sharpen up some of those real deep shadows. I'm really adding form to the shape now with the black. You can see it's got a lot more form to it. Oops. Sometimes I just use my finger as a bit of an eraser. If I've gone, you know, a little bit too hard, it will sort of blur it a little bit. The oils on your fingertip will act a little bit like a mineral spirit sometimes, but on a, you know, not as reliable level. And you can just blur things a little bit. So if you ever see me do that, then you know that's what I'm doing. So I am just going to come back in with my, I think, medium grey, so the 70%, just to do a little bit of that blurring again in certain areas. I can be quite a perfectionist when it comes to this because I just want it to look right, like in my brain. It might look absolutely fine to you now, but there's sometimes, you know, things in my brain and I just go, no, that's not right. Same as with, you know, splitting up all of the little bits. I mean, it hasn't really made much of a difference, but I felt like it needed doing. And we've got this one, just a little bit more blurring, medium grey there. I think that's it. So I'm pretty sure, you know, you can see that it does look like an extension of whatever organic material these towers are made out of. Like I said, if there's any areas you think need a little tiny bit more colour, just go over, add little bits, but just don't do too much. We don't want this to be solid colour. We want it to just look a little bit like it's got all kinds of materials inside it and it's just morphing. So that's the towers and whatever this is. Now we need to look at the other elements of the background. So we've obviously got lots of cloud-like things, but we've also got steam coming out of the tops of these buildings, and I'm pretty sure that that's what all this cloud-like substance is. It's steam coming out of all the buildings of the tower. So what I now need to think is, what colour do I want this steam to be? Because it's got to go with the page, but it's got to be different enough that it, you know, is another colour that we can use as the background. I'm gonna have to think on this one for a bit, so I will come back when I've thought about it. Okay, I've had a think, and I was gonna do like this kind of green for like toxic smoke that's coming out of these buildings, but there'd be far too much of that green and we wouldn't be able to sort of differentiate it from the wings and the clouds. So I thought, what other colour do we have on here that there's not too much of, but that we could use and incorporate into the clouds? And the only one I can think of is this Tuscan red, black, orange blend that we've got across the spine of the flying fish. because I don't really want to introduce any new colours for reasons previously mentioned, and that's the only colour where there's not enough of it that it would sort of mingle with the smoke. I mean, there are areas where it's kind of going to be touching the smoke, but I can always put like a white outline or a green outline around the bird at the end with an acrylic pen, so that will sort of lift it from that. So yeah, this is what I was going to do to start with, like a black and bright toxic green smoke, but there's just too much green, and this is what I'm going to do. So we've got the black, the Tuscan red, and the orange on top of the Tuscan red. So I don't want to see any orange on its own like that. I just want to see this Tuscan red orange mix. So that's what I'm going for. I've got my little pencils with me. We've got quite a lot to cover here. I probably will show you sort of a couple of areas and then sort of get on with it. What I may have a quick go at is putting some blending solution down on the clouds first, just because it gives you an even better surface to blend on. I've got some paper tortillions here. I'll probably pick that one. And I've also got my blending solution. Now this is, I believe it's called Gamsol. It's an odorless mineral spirit, and I got this idea for this decanter from Colouring Bliss. I saw it on her channel. I think she saw it from someone else, and you can get these off Amazon. I don't know what they're for. It might be nail varnish remover or something, but you put whatever liquid you want inside, and then all you have to do is just press this down a couple of times, and the tiniest amount of liquid will be pushed up into this well. And that means that you're not dipping a dirty tortillion or brush straight into the solution and muddying the solution. You've just got this little well to work from at the top, and it's completely separate to the rest of it. So I thought that was a fantastic idea for storing your blending solution. Actually, after all that, I'm going to use a paintbrush, because tortillions are good for actually blending, but when you're just putting it down onto the paper as a surface, it's easier with a paintbrush. So let me just grab a small paintbrush and we'll do it that way. Let's go for this one. Right, so once again, dipping my paintbrush into the well. If you need a little bit more, you just press that down. I'll leave a link in the description for the one I bought off Amazon. It's a fantastic idea. So this is just me painting on the clear odorless mineral spirit into the outline of the smoke. It might, you know, expand out of the line a little bit. That's absolutely fine, because this stuff, it evaporates. It doesn't dry, it evaporates. And even though you can now see the image on the back and it's got this big grease stain, that's going to completely disappear. So don't worry, as it evaporates, that will disappear. But this will just create the most lovely, easily blendable surface. So if you're struggling with paper quality, maybe try putting a layer of this stuff down first, and it might really help your pencils blend on the rubbish paper. This is decent paper, so we're all right. But I'll see how this goes. It's just an idea to test this blending solution with this this kind of cloud formation that we've got. So I'll just zoom you in. I've got so much stuff on my desk. I'm in between doing a big diamond painting of Buddy and this video and something else, and I keep swapping and changing what's on the desk. So I've got things all around me. It's chaos. Right, so I'm going to start with the black, and that's where we'll do the outline. So blending solution doesn't quite matter much yet, although you will notice when you've put it down, your colour just goes on so much more pigmented straight off the bat. It's just so smooth. So I'm just going to do outline. I'm assuming that all of these clouds are coming from the buildings, because you can see, you know, it's coming from these little spouts. So whatever it is, whatever substance is being emitted from these buildings, I just thought cyberpunk, maybe it's some kind of toxic industrial thing. Who knows? But at least we can recycle the red colour. Sorry, my throat is terrible again. I usually film these videos not long after I've woken up, and I've not really had a chance to speak yet, so you're getting the early morning croggy version of Claire. So I'm just outlining on this one side for now. I don't think I'm going to do both sides and then meet in the middle with the colour. I think I'm going to do an outline on one edge and then gradiate to, you know, upwards this way, and just follow that on all of the different cloud formations. So now that I've done my basic outline, I'm just going to go in and thicken that, but I'm not having to press too hard because I don't want to completely burnish it. This is where we're going to be blending in with our Tuscan red and of course the orange on top. So I'm not going too hard with it, but I just want to fill the space a little bit more. Seeing as we've only really got one colour, you know, there's going to be the black and the red. So I need to fill the space a bit more because we haven't got enough colours to fill that area. Woken up with a cold sore as well this morning, which is great. I don't know where I've got that from. It's just rubbish, isn't it, when you wake up with one? And I haven't got any like gel or anything to put on it, so I'm just going to have to struggle. They are quite painful, cold sores, aren't they? Like, you don't realise, you just think, oh, it's something ugly on your lip. But they can be really like painful and throbbing. This is a nice conversation, isn't it? You're hearing my croggy throat and then you're hearing all about my cold sore. It's not invoking good pictures, is it? Right. So I think that'll about do for the black. Then I'm going to grab my Tuscan red. Start blending into that black. Now again, the blending solution really helps. You can see that I'm not even pressing that hard, and I'm getting sort of full coverage because the blending solution sort of filled up the tooth of the paper a little bit. So I'm getting really good coverage, quite a good blend as well, even though it's a black into a colour. Even though, you know, we've not got those mid-tones between it, it's working quite well and quite nicely. So I'm going to cover the whole of the rest of the cloud with the Tuscan red, but I'm not sort of pressing really hard because I know we want orange to go over that. It just looks as if I'm pressing hard because the tooth is being filled. And that sort of effect has come from putting the solution down first. See, this video that I'm doing, I could have just done the introduction, coloured the page off camera, and then come back and said, how do I feel having coloured an image from a book that I don't like? But I thought, let's make it into a colour along as well, because people might also be looking at these images thinking, what the hell do I do with all these, you know, strange kind of fantasy images? And they're Kirby as well, so they're really detailed. Can be quite daunting. So I thought, let's make it into a colour along. I have had recent comments from people. Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. It's going to start wafting your pigment around. Yeah, I have had recent comments from people on different videos saying, oh, the video doesn't get started until X time or whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, because I'm explaining things and then I want to, like, you know, fully make sure that you understand and what's going on and, you know, introduce you to things properly. And not just be like, here I am, goodbye, you know, show you the page that I've coloured, say I enjoyed it or not, and then go. I want to try and make it collaborative. So if any of you are struggling with alien worlds, maybe this colour along will help you a little bit. Right, so I've got my Tuscan Red on there. Just want to make sure it's a nice flat layer, because otherwise we're going to get areas of brighter orange. That should do. So I've got my orange pencil now, and I'm going to go over all of the Tuscan Red. Now you can use a little bit of firmer pressure this time because we are trying to burnish it, but you don't really need to do that if you've put mineral spirits down. It will just look burnished anyway. Now, you might be screaming about these clouds because you might be thinking, oh my God, they're horrible, they're black and they're really dark and deep and all this, and it's going to take away from other things on the page. But I think when they're all done, it will really complement the page. And also I'm going to be putting bits of gel pen and acrylic, you know, maybe outlines or dots or something. So wait till the end result, see what you think, and then decide whether you want to colour along with me. That's the advice I would give you, because if you really don't like it and you start colouring along, then, you know, you're not going to like the piece that you finished with, which is no good, is it? So, yeah, there we go. That's basically what I want these steam clouds to look like. And like I said, I will be outlining it and stuff, and I need to think of what colour to put the sky, because we do have flashes of sky on the page. It's not that much because there's such a lot of this cloud and vapour, but we do have bits of sky, so I need to also think what I'm going to do colour of the sky wise. So I'm going to get on with these. In fact, let me just do one of these for you because they're slightly different. So you see where Kirby has put these lines, that is where I'll be putting my darker colour. So let me just do a little waft of the blending solution. What did I say, this one, didn't I? So I'm just going to paint that over. You don't need a lot, but I tend to put more on than you actually need. I don't know why. There we go. I just shove it on. It tends to like dry / evaporate really quickly when I'm putting it on with the brush, and I can only go like a little bit with the application before it seems dry. So I just bang it on. Right, so I've got my black. I'm going to go into those areas with the lines that I said. So this will be like the darker side of the vapour. And that just, it glides over the page when you put that blending solution on. It's amazing. And like I said, I'm really not pushing hard at all, and I'm getting like really saturated black. So like I said, just colouring the one side, and I've picked the side where Kirby's put the lines, so that we'll cover those up, and it's giving us a good starting point. What else? I think I'm just going to link these together so that we've got one vapour cloud that's that's all one, if you know what I mean. I'm linking them all together, so this will be one like this that we just done. Do I make any sense at all? Oh gosh, sometimes it's hard trying to translate your brain to other people. At least it is for me. So I also want to carry on up this because I feel like this is the same cloud. So I'm going to carry on with that black, just outlining. Right the way around. And then just fill in the shape a little bit more with the black. Nice and soft so that we can blend that Tuscan Red in. Now the only thing about the blending solution, you've got to be careful, I've just done it myself, is that if you're putting your hand over it, it is going to smudge. So just be very careful. You might want to put like a piece of card or something under your hand as you do this. I don't really worry myself about little things like that because I know it can be fixed. If all else fails, we've got acrylic pens, haven't we? We can just bang a load of acrylic paint on the top and it's going to cover absolutely anything that you've done underneath. So try not to worry if you get mistakes or things that happen. It can always be fixed. Right, so that's my black Tuscan red. And that just melts into the black so beautifully. I'm hoping I've not got much glare on this. I've got a bit of glare. I really need to figure this lighting situation out. It's been like this for about 10 years where I've got this top down light and depending on which sort of position I put the book, you get glare and all you can see is wax shining back at you. You can't actually see the flat, beautiful saturated colour that's on the page. So I need to sort that out, but I'm literally doing it. I've converted my dining room into my colouring room, so I don't have a dining room anymore. It is just my desk, all my colouring stuff. And I don't have any room. I've got a small house. I don't have any room for big lighting rigs or studio setups or any. I couldn't afford it anyway, but you know what I'm saying. So with me, I don't feel like my quality of video has gotten any more improved since pretty much I started doing videos 10 years ago, which you would think, you know, you'd start to improve a bit, but I've got no room for anything like that. And I just literally put my iPad above me and start talking and colouring. So there's, you know, I would love to be like the channels that are really professional and, you know, that they're sat talking to camera, they've got perfect lighting, they've got, you know, I don't like being on camera anyway. I've only just started putting my face on thumbnails and I don't know if I'm going to continue doing it. I just thought it might, apparently it makes more people click your video if you've got your face on it. But I might not carry on with it because I absolutely hate a picture of me. But yeah, so sort of like quality wise, I do wish it was better, but this is just what you get really with this channel. It's not one of the professional ones. I probably put a bit too much black on this one. You see the black has gone quite far up to the top edge, which isn't ideal. But it doesn't matter because there's so many of these clouds that there's bound to be some variation in them. It would probably be stranger if they were all exactly the same. You know, you put the colour positions in exactly the same place. So I'm not too worried about that. But basically when we're carrying on with these cloud things, obviously extend your black from your outline, but don't go as far maybe as I've gone here. Anyway, right, I've done a couple of clouds for you. I'm going to go away and do the rest of them. Then we will decide what to do with the sky in the background, and then we'll be doing our finishing touches. So yeah, excited to see how it looks. All the steam is done. I'm quite pleased with it. I'm just thinking about the sky now because I want it to be, you know, contrasting. I was going to think and do a black sky, but then it would just merge in with the clouds and it probably wouldn't pop as much. So I looked through at Google Images of cyberpunk skies, and a lot of it is just kind of neon blue. So I need to find a neon blue, which there isn't one of in Prismacolor. So I'm going to have a look and see what is the closest colour that I can get to a neon. I think that's going to be the non-photo blue. So I'm just going to go in and do a whole solid layer of non-photo blue. Hopefully it will be different enough to the blue-green buildings that we've got. And I'll just see how it works out. That's all I've done this whole video, is just try things and see how it looks. So whole solid area of neon blue. So literally just filling in every single gap now with this neon blue, and I can still do a bit of shading on it if I have to. It just depends how it looks. I don't want to go for a nighttime sky because I think we've got some really dark elements on here already. So let's just colour everything in neon and see how it turns out. I personally think that looks a little bit too flat just with the standard neon-y kind of blue in the background. So I'm going to come in with a couple more colours and do a dark to light gradient going down. So I've picked out the Copenhagen blue and the true blue. Now I'm just going to start with the Copenhagen at the top and then slowly phase it down into the true blue and then phase that down into the non-photo blue that I've put down already. So basically, we'll start with the Copenhagen. It's very hard to do when you're on an edge, I've noticed. And just feather that over the top. You've got to try not to pull up the page while I'm doing it. Just feather that over the top. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want there to be a little bit of variation on the blue. I thought it might work just to have that solid neon blue on the background, but I feel like I need a gradient. It's not very often that I colour things just solidly now. I always have some kind of light to dark situation going on or some colour change just to make it look, you know, a little bit different, a bit more dynamic and less flat. So I should have known really that I'd be doing some sort of gradient, but if I had have done, this would have been a lot neater because obviously I've put a layer down of the non-photo blue and it's now, this Copenhagen is now trying to sit on top of a really waxy layer. But I'm just going to put a layer of it down. And it's like I said, if it doesn't work out, it's just an experiment. It's not the end of the world if your colouring page doesn't turn out exactly the way you envisioned it. But it's either that or just don't try anything new, you know, which is boring, isn't it? So you've got to give things a go. And at the end of the day, it's the whole page that's going to make an impression. It's not just one area of it. So we don't have to worry if there is a section of the colouring page that isn't as good as we wanted it to be, because it should hopefully make up a full picture that people don't then scrutinise, or you don't scrutinise yourself. So like I said, I'm just doing a layer of this. I'm not being, you know, precious with it at all. And I might just come in with that paintbrush again and a bit of blending solution, see what that does. Normally you sort of do a few light layers and then come in with your blending solution, whereas with this one I've pretty much burnished the blue on the back already, on the background of this. So I may not even need that true blue. I might just bang a bit of blending solution on it and see if that helps. I'm not too fussed, you know, I just want it to have a slight bit of colour variation on this sky. So I'll just come down a little bit further with this. And it's looking so scratchy and rough and horrible at the minute. So you've just got to bear with the process, I suppose. So let's grab some blending solution. If all fails, grab your blending solution, that's good. Good advice. Just gonna pop this over the top. Like I said, I tend to use loads of it. I know when I first got some and started using it all these years ago, I can remember people saying you only need the tiniest bit and blah blah blah, and I could just never get the effect that I wanted without using plenty of it. So that's what I do. Like I say, it's not going to turn out to be the best background I've ever done, because I should have done the gradient from the very beginning. But you know what I always say, if there's something that you're not happy with, you can cover it up. So with this being, especially with this being a fantasy page, who's gonna police the fact that you've got random coloured dots everywhere or weird sort of features? No one can police that. So we can do literally anything we want with this book. And like I said earlier, that's probably the big draw for this book that I didn't really realise when I was doing my review for it, and I said it was probably my least favourite, or a colouring book I really didn't like. And that's obviously why I ended up getting rid of it, because I was just looking at images and thinking, I don't want to colour this. You know, horrible sort of praying mantis, like look at this, I showed you at the start, you know, with holes all over him and steam coming out of his arms and holes, and just it freaks me out. But it is definitely a book where there's a lot of scope. You can literally do what you want with it. So who knows, maybe in the future I'll buy another copy. Let's see when we finish this page how I feel. So yeah, I've just added that little bit of blue on there, blending it out with the blending solution. I know I'm going over the tips of these feathers, but that's okay because I can just use a acrylic pen in a bright neon yellow to go over those tips and make them stand out again. Basically at the minute I'm just going over trying to make it as smooth as possible. Because obviously when you're using a tool, you're going to see the marks of that tool. But again, who's to say there's not any texture in this sky and this is not done on purpose? You know, you just got to frame things in a different light. I think that's all you can do. Keep things positive, keep things experimental, and most of all, just have fun and don't worry. Right, I'm going to leave it at that. It's not looking, you know, like I said, it's not looking exactly how I want it, but you know me, I'll just go in and start messing about. So I'll bring back that Copenhagen blue. And now that we've got that nice base, I'll see if it goes on nicely. Now this is actually making marks in the sky now. It's making linear, scratchy kind of marks. So I know that I can't go any further with this. And all I can do is just buff that out and blend it and leave it as it is. But at least we've got a little bit of colour and a bit of texture on there. It is what it is. Right, now let's look at final touches then. So we need acrylic gel pens, and I think for this, because we've got so much colour going on, I want to again bring in some of the pinks and purples, maybe do some dots everywhere. It will cover up areas of that sky, so that will fade back, and it will make it so that you're not focusing in on, you know, bits of the sky that look a bit rough. We're going to brighten other things up and take your eye away from that. So I've got that pink Languo pen again. I'm going to put a little bit of blue tack on the end, and let's think then, what shall I do? Shall I just do some random pink bits? It wouldn't be one of my videos without dots, would it? And especially with this book, I just think, well, why not? Who's going to tell me we wouldn't have dots in the sky that are bright pink? No one. I'm just adding them in all over the place. Varying sort of thicknesses as well. And then let's do a few of the purple ones. Just a couple of these because I want to also put some green on there. Just a couple of these darker purple dots. You always try not to smudge any either. When I do it, I always end up smudging something. That's a big one. So we've got some purple dots. Now then, let's have a look for a bright green. So this is our neon set. Let me look at the colour on the back. That's pretty bright. Let's see if there's anything brighter. Ah, this one. The one in the dopamine set is probably brighter. So let's go for that one. I've got all sorts on my desk now. It's a right mess. Right. So this is the bright green. And I was saying about the tips of his feathers or wings or whatever. I can just come back in. So I've not used this one much. So let me just give it a little scratch scratch. Where's my paper gone? Let's give it a little scratch scratch. Make sure it's nice and flowing. There we go. And this should hopefully blend quite nicely with the chartreuse. Now I do have still wet blending solution on here, so you can forgive the pens for being a little bit temperamental because I can feel them sort of slippy sliding around. Very focused, you can tell because I've gone quiet. Oops. See, everything can be fixed with an acrylic pen. That's why I never worry about going over the lines anymore. I mean, it used to really bother me. Now I just think it's easy to fix up. And no one's going to look that close, you know? No one is going to look that close. They're just going to see the picture as a whole. And as long as it's cohesive and as long as it works and it catches their eye, I mean, it doesn't even matter if you never show this to anyone. Colouring's not about other people. I'm just, because I know I'm going to be uploading this to my socials, being a channel, people will see it. But for the majority of you guys watching, you might not even upload your colouring pages. You probably just do it for, you know, the benefits of it, the relaxing and the mindfulness and stuff. So you might not even be thinking about what are other people going to think when they look at it. But it's something I struggle with sometimes, and I think, oh, is it good enough to post? And I think that's where it becomes more of a chore and less of an enjoyable hobby. So I do try not to do that. So there was just a little bit of blending solution building up on the tip of the pen. That's why I did that little scribble, because it was sort of blending solution mixed with the pencil pigment and it was gumming up the end of the pen. But now I've cleared that and it looks great, so not to worry. Anywhere else I think I'll do, because I've gone over the lines here a little bit. So I'm just touching up now, neatening things up. And like I said, yours will look different to mine. We're not going to have exactly the same quote-unquote mistakes. Do I want to do any more? Let's just do some on this side because these have faded quite a bit. wiping this off so we can get it free flowing again. So yeah, if you wanted to, if you're colouring along with this, or you're watching it first before you want to do the colour along, what I would suggest is to do the Copenhagen True Blue and Non-Photo Blue as a gradient in the background before you just, you know, before you just put a layer of that Non-Photo Blue on, because you are going to struggle getting it to blend afterwards. But again, it's still quite good when things like this happen that aren't ideal, because you get to see that I'm not perfect. I'm not some amazing artist, you know. I'm literally just a girl, just a girl who's kind of self-taught and still makes a lot of mistakes and still hasn't got all the answers when it comes to this hobby. All right, so I've gone over some of those just to brighten them up against the blue a little bit. And I think that's it. We just need to do some of these green dots now. I mean, we don't, but why not? I guess this is just bits of feathers, flicky bits of feathers that are just being flung off of his wing as he flies along. See, I've smudged one already. There we go. So yeah, if in doubt, acrylic pen dots. They always make things look a little bit more magical and draw the eye away, so right, so I think that's all the dots that I want to do. Put all this stuff away, and then I'm going to have a look at it and see if there's any last bits that I want to do to it. I did mention that I wanted to outline the fish in white, didn't I? Now, I really badly need some white acrylic pens, especially like the thin Posca, because I've run out and all of the white pens that I have now are really thick ones. So I don't know actually if I've got a white that I can use. I've got ivory and beige, but that's no good. Maybe I can make it work. Let's get the ivory one, because it's not too far off white. It's just a little bit more creamy, but that's okay. Again, trying not to smudge anything and just giving him a little bit of an outline. What I like to do sometimes as well is outline all of the black, so go over all of the black lines with whatever colour it is that's touching them. So say for this, I would go over with an orange acrylic, and then for these I would go over with a green acrylic. And it just, getting rid of the black lines, sometimes it just really makes it, I don't know how it makes it look. Sometimes it makes it look more realistic, like if it was a flower or whatever that you were colouring, but it's got something. If it was a flower or something you were colouring, flowers aren't outlined in black, so it does make things look more realistic in that sense. Right, so that's not too bad, is it really? To say it's not bright white. At least it's giving it a little bit of punch, bit of lift. I think I'll stick to there, because these greens are quite light, so you don't really need the ivory to pop it. It's just on the darker areas, I think. If you've made it this far into the video, let's do one of those fun things. Why don't you leave me an emoji in the comments? Why don't you leave me a fish emoji? I think people say these leave me a whatever in the comments is for engagement, but I don't know. I'm not big on, like, you know, all this YouTube stats and stuff like that. Same as I was saying earlier about having the proper studio kit. No, I don't. It's just me and a desk. But I think that's why people say, like, leave me a comment or leave me an emoji, because people find that easier to do than to think of a comment. And then it helps with YouTube showing other people your video, I think. I think for me, the main achievement I want is to get to 100,000 subscribers, because I think that's just such an amazing achievement to get to that milestone. And then after that, I don't care about any, you know, getting to the next goal or the next goal. It will just be, I've made it to that. That was my goal from early on. And like I said, I've been on here for 10 years now and I've still not got there, but it's going to happen, hopefully. And it'll just be like an amazing achievement for me personally to get to that number. Do I want to do any more? This is faded quite a little bit, so I might just go over with a second layer. But I think that's pretty good. You know, I think I might leave it there, guys. I think me and this page are done. So let me take it out of the light, out of the glare. Stand up, see what you can see. So this is the page out of the glare. I really like it. There's a lot of blue on there, so that's probably the one thing that I would say. Maybe do the sky a bit differently, but yeah, I enjoyed it. And that's what the video was all about, seeing whether or not I could enjoy colouring a picture from alien worlds. And honestly, I did enjoy this. I enjoyed the whole process. I enjoyed talking you through it. And I just wish I had you here with me so that we could go backwards and forwards and you could help me out a bit. But yeah, I hope that you like it. I don't think I'm going to be buying a copy of this book anytime soon, just in case anybody was waiting to hear that. Again, the majority of the illustrations just do not appeal to me. I mean, there's ones like this that are okay, but it's just not really my subject matter. Yeah, so will I be buying another copy of the book? Probably not. Did I enjoy colouring this page? Definitely. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed it. Leave me some comments, leave me an emoji and subscribe. Thank you so much for sticking with me through a bit of a long video, and let me know what you think. All right, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon on Colour with Claire.